I had my little music going on. Broncos, how about that?
Oh my, yes. Woo!
Yeah.
What a win.
Exactly. That was so fun. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead. I'm recording this for anybody that's not on. And I just want to welcome you to our team call for Monday. What is this? February 8th. I can't believe
already
February being such a short month, how fast it goes. So Crystal, thanks for being on, and hopefully everyone else will enjoy this as well. But I wanted to talk, it seems like recently whenever I post something about what do you guys need, what can I provide you with training, the topic of invites comes up. And so it got me thinking, and I think what we'll do is just start with kind of a brief overview of invites and the different types of invites. And then I have some thoughts on maybe why we struggle with them. But I think there's a couple of different kinds of invites. There's the Facebook post that's just something on your page, whether it be really just even sharing your workout, sharing your Shakeology, something that you love about doing this, is a form of an invite. It's just letting people have a little glimpse of your life. Another way to do an invite is just by sharing your story. And I have to say, I think this is what people connect with the most, is the times that we're a little bit vulnerable. You know, when we share what's going on in our lives. I think, like I know today I posted a little bit about just how hard my workout was. And I get little comments and messages when that happens, because people realize that we're human, and that just because we work out and eat healthy doesn't mean it's easy. And I think that makes us relatable. So sharing our stories in person, just in conversation, is another great way. But really, you know, you've heard probably that the fortune is in the follow-up, and that follow-up is those personal messages and continue on, you know, following up on those conversations. But really connecting with people one-on-one is where the magic happens. And I think we've kind of shared some examples of personal messages, and I think we can always kind of fine-tune those, you know, improve on them. I think I have seen mine get better just as I have more confidence. So in thinking about that, I really kind of looked over everybody's, just kind of where you're at, your social media, what you're doing. And I feel like in this group of coaches, everybody knows how to invite. Maybe we could use a little polish or whatever, but I really feel like people know the gist of sharing what we're doing and asking other people to join us. The messages that people posted in the comments on the Inspired page, we're spot on of just, this is what I'm doing, would you like to join me? So I started thinking about a couple of things. One is, and we've talked about this, is that, you know, it takes probably 10 invites just to get somebody to engage with you and to have a conversation with you. So it really is a numbers game. So I really started thinking about what holds us back when it comes to inviting. And I've kind of narrowed it down to 4 things that I have seen, both in myself and in other coaches. And so what I want you to do is kind of listen through these things. And at the end, I'm going to ask you to identify which one you think is probably your biggest challenge. So I think the first one can be lack of training. I'm not exactly sure what to say. But I think a lot of times that boils down to a lack of confidence of, I just don't feel confident in putting myself out there or putting this message out there. So that's number 1, is confidence. Number 2 is belief in the product. You know, I think we're asking people to spend a chunk of money. Do we believe that the products work? And I guess I would say, if you're being proof of the product, you should be able to have your own success story. For somebody that maybe isn't quite there yet, there are those other success stories out there to look at. But I really think this is important. And I think it's important to ask yourself, if I weren't a coach and I didn't, you know, I wasn't building a business, would I still buy this stuff? And I went through this a while back where I just wasn't sure about coaching. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. And I really looked at it and I went, but I love Shakeology, and I'm going to keep drinking Shakeology. And these workouts are great, and I love having something new and different and fun to try all the time. So I want to be a coach for the discount at a minimum. And for me, that kind of self-examination made me realize that I truly believe in our products. Kind of along that process, I started looking into other shakes. Like, was there something else that I could use that was less expensive, that would still do the trick? And I couldn't find anything. And that for me really helped solidify it. So, that question is, do you believe in the product? And if you don't, that's okay. But to be a successful coach, we have to. And so we need to start doing some of our homework to figure out if we do believe in the product. One of the cool things they have out there for us is podcasts on Shakeology. And they just announced on the National Wake Up Call that there's a new one coming out, I want to say this week, on the value of Shakeology. Is it worth the money? So I think that's going to be a very valuable tool there. So anyway, number one of the reasons holding us back was confidence. The second, belief in the product. Number three, which I don't really think is the case with anybody here, is just plain lazy. Like, I don't want to work hard enough to do the invites. I'm not making time for it, that sort of thing. And I don't really see that being the case with anybody here. But I know one of the things that was true for me is not so much lazy, but I was being sloppy with my schedule and not making the appropriate amount of time. I wasn't being disciplined in my power hour and making time for those invites on a consistent basis. So, I would say just not being disciplined with our schedule to make time for the business. So that's number three. What I would guess is probably the most common one for all of us is fear of rejection. It's scary to put ourselves out there. It's scary to maybe, invite somebody and then we don't hear anything and it gets uncomfortable. Or I find just even in posting, for the longest time, I thought about, well, what if somebody thinks this is dumb? And I think fear of rejection is probably the biggest thing that holds most of us back. And if I look at people that are super successful really in any type of thing, they've very much gotten over that. They know who they are, they know what their message is, and they're not afraid to share it. So those are kind of the four. So I want you guys to just think about that for a minute. But I found just kind of a little nugget, and maybe you've already seen this, but I've watched it now like 3 or 4 times, and I get pumped up every time I see it. I feel like this is a message we probably ought to watch, like once a month, just to kind of remind us of why we shouldn't be fearful of rejection. So for the moment, if you can be patient with me, I'm going to share my screen with you. And we're just going to watch this together, because I don't know about you guys, but just in my life, when there's all these great videos, it's like, yep, I'll get back to that one. I'll get back to that one. But we're constantly being thrown new good videos. So this is worth the 9 minutes right now for us to all watch this together. So let's see. Bear with me. Okay, there's my screen. That's not what I want, though. Let's see. Okay, can you guys all see Brendon Burchard on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going to just play this, and then we will finish up after that. So here goes.
I spent all this time teaching people how to share their voice with the world.
Can you hear it?
Get their personal brand,
Yeah.
story out about who they are and what they want to accomplish in life. And one of the things that really surprised me when I started doing this almost 10 years ago now was how many people would come up to me and say, but Brendon, how do you deal with rejection? And these were often adults, which really blew my mind, because I was a really young guy back then. And maybe 45, 55, 65-year-old folks saying, well, Brendon, how do you deal with rejection? I thought, what do you mean? And there would be this insecurity in their voice as they asked that question. And I thought, wait, you're an adult and still struggling with ideas about rejection? I think that's really unfortunate. And I think it shows that sometimes people live an unexamined life, that they're willing to not question themselves. I mean, shouldn't we have all gotten over and kind of dealt with rejection pretty young. I mean, high school, college level stuff. And I'm not saying that we won't ever be self-conscious. Don't worry, you don't have to give me hate emails and comments below. I mean, you can make fun of my shirt, but I mean, other than that, please don't. I'm not trying to be insensitive, people. I just think that sometimes they don't understand math and odds. That we think rejection is this thing that happens all the time. So what happens is so many people guide their life based on this fear that they're going to be rejected. So they don't take action, they don't start new things, they don't chase their dreams because they're worried what other people are going to think, that they're going to be rejected and deemed unworthy or unlovable or, not adequate in some way or another. And you think, well, that's so sad, because rejection, the actual form of rejection that shapes people's identity and hurts them, happens so rarely. And if you don't believe it, then that's an internal fear, not the reality of the universe. And let me prove this to you just with some basic data. I've traveled around the globe, well over most of the globe now. And here's what I find out over and over and over again when I speak to audiences. I always do this little simple activity where I say, if you've ever been rejected in a way where it hurt, it hurt and formed and shaped your identity in a way. I mean, it was a significant hurt that you felt it, and it changed how you felt about yourself and what you might want to go and accomplish in the world. If you've ever felt that before, would you raise your hand? Everyone raised their hand. I said, well, if you've ever been rejected by, let's say, 3 people who really rejected you in that way, that you were really, just shot down, hurt, and it changed who you are and what you wanted to accomplish in life. How many's ever happened that with 3 people? A bunch of people raise their hand again. And I start escalating that number, 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 30. Here's what's amazing. I've done this all over the world with audiences with thousands of people in them, okay? Thousands of people. Here's the average across all those audiences all around the world, doesn't matter the culture, the average number, about 7. So anywhere between 5 and 7, meaning people say between 5 and 7 people hurt their feelings enough with a real rejection, not one of those, well, I'm sorry, I can't go out with you, I'm washing my hair stuff. Somebody where they really criticized you and rejected you in a way that hurts. The average person says 5 to 7 people rejected them like that. Now, there are some people who have more than that, but I'm saying the average is 5 to 7. And yet, so many people, when I ask, well, how many of you are so scared of rejection, almost everyone raises their hand. And it's like, wait a second, you're scared of something that barely ever happens? Because the second question I ask is, well, how many of you have ever interacted with, let's say, 10 people? And when you interact with those 10 people, it went just fine. They were nice to you, they were polite, they were patient, or they just didn't care one way or another. How many of you ever met 10 people like that? Everyone raised their hand. Then I say, well, how many of you ever interacted with, met, known, or associated with, let's say, 100 people in your life? And you've known 100 people, and 100 people known with you. Everyone raised their hand. I think that number up to thousands, everyone's still raising their hand. Because we've all met with, interacted with, known, or associated with, literally thousands of people in our life. Most of them could care less, didn't criticize, were generally supportive. And it's like, you're basing your life and your rejection that maybe has happened for people between 5 and 7 times. Thousands of people you interact with were cool with you, or at least let you do your own thing and didn't criticize it. Wait a second, if you realize those numbers, the math, like 5 people, 1,000. 5 people aren't supportive of you, but 1,000 were and we're fine with you. You think about that math for a second. Automatically, statistically, mathematically, 5,000 are the freaks. They're the oddities. They're the weirdos. They don't make computational sense over here. You're worried about what the minority, the tragic minority says. 5 out of 1,000? You've got 1,000 people who got your back. You could storm these 5 people, right? See, rejection actually barely ever happened. We fear it because when we were young, it happened. It was so big. But come on. We get older. We gain that little something less maturity that says, you know what? I am the person. Myself, regardless. Some people say, Brendan, you can't accept fear. It's like, well, why does fear get so much credit? Because people also have so much credit. People have so much strength. People have so much in themselves that actually could be heroic tendencies if they focus on that as much as they focused on their inadequacies. So why are we giving everyone a buy card and saying, oh, it's okay that you're still scared of rejection? I don't think it's okay. I think it's rather we should say, let's have a higher ambition for ourselves as human beings to allow ourselves the freedom to be who we are, to genuinely express ourselves. Yes, will some people criticize it? Absolutely. Some people are going to criticize this video and be like, oh man, I hate your shirt. Your hair looks bad, really white, and what's your deal? You know, everyone's going to say something. So what? I'm not going to limit my service or my message to the world based on what other people think. And by the way, who are we fearing the most anyway? Usually the people we fear are the harsh critics. But let's talk about the harsh critics. Who are they? Right? Most harsh critics, unless they're paid to be critics, are just jerks. You don't need to listen to them. Why are people critical? Most people are critical just for maybe 4 reasons. The first reason is self-boasting. Like most critics, they're braggarts. They like to say, you're not good enough. I do a much better job. Fantastic, good for you. Go do a better job. Out of my vision, please. Right? It's like, don't worry about the self-boasters and the narcissists. You don't need to be concerned about them. They have nothing to add to the direction in which you're going in your life, right? So just focus on your own thing. Don't worry about the couch critics or the apathetic advisors on the sidelines of life. They really have nothing to contribute to you unless you ask for constructive feedback, and don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know, I think the second reason people become critics often is because it's self-protection. They're critical of you because they see something outstanding in you or something remarkable or something different, and they're scared of different because they're comforted in their own thing, or it challenges their own beliefs or their own behaviors, seeing you excel, seeing you have the boldness, the freedom, the joy, the ambition, the guts, the integrity, the courage to put yourself out there. So they're like, oh, yeah, who do you think you are? So they try to knock you down to their level. Do you need to be concerned about those people? No. What's the third reason? I think the third reason people do it is sometimes they're just critical, but they're critical out of ignorance. They actually don't know you. They don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know anything about your area of expertise or the thing that you're trying to share in the world. And so why be concerned about what somebody who has no knowledge about you or what you're doing has to say? And the fourth reason people do it, I think, is because they actually do want to provide value. They want to give you some direction to protect you, to care for you, and they don't realize that sometimes the way that they do that, their tone might be condescending, or maybe the way that they do it does hurt you or does limit you, but they didn't intend it. They weren't trying to be a tyrant to you. They're just maybe a little unconscious or lack some emotional or social intelligence. For those people, pity them. But the rest of them, ignore them. You know, I think give some of those people who are trying, give them patience and pity. The other ones, don't give them patience and don't give them the time and attention. And that sounds harsh to say, you know, be criticized for it, of course, but that's what I believe, so I'm going to say it. You know, I want you to go say what you feel like with the world. Go give yourself to the world without concern about what the world thinks about you so much. Because if you don't, if you limit the expression of who you are and what you have to give in the world based on a couple people who might criticize you, what have you done? You've sunken below the lowest common denominator of mankind. If we all shrunk in our ability to serve because what some people might think, where would we be as humans? Go out and be great. Never apologize for it.
All right. So have you seen that before?
I have.
You have?
When Amanda posted it.
Okay.
Was it her? Yeah.
Sounds good. And we have somebody else that joined us by phone. Who's here with us? Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's just us. Anyway, you know, and I have seen it before, but I just feel like in the context of invites, it's just a really powerful message. And I feel like one of the thing, when I saw my business grow the most is someone shared an idea with me of just being, I think, wholeheartedly, unapologetically yourself. And I think once I started doing that, I really found my voice. And I think that's what happens with your invites is, you know, I think we've talked about, it's not so much what we say, it's the confidence and the way we put it out there that make people want to join us. So I guess, Crystal, you get put on the spot since you're on the call and ask everyone else to comment. But of those 4 things, what would you say? And I guess maybe I should preface this. I feel like I have struggled with all 4 of those at any given time. For me currently, it's just the reminder of to be confident, and that comes from my personal development. So when I'm doing my personal development, I feel like I'm real confident in putting myself out there, and when I'm not, it's a struggle. So, but I feel like I can relate to all four. So do you remember? Do you want me to go?
Yeah, I agree. I think all four for sure. I mean, at some point in time you do. For me right now, I think it's fear of rejection for me, I think is the biggest roadblock for me. Confidence, I love the product. So I love the Shakeology. I love the workouts. I love how they're set up. So I don't have a problem with that. It's fear. And fear is a bad four-letter word that, that's what stands in most people's way.
I would agree. And I feel like I even find that it happens when I haven't been real consistent in my invites, and it's time to like sit back down and start with the invites, But I think that I loved a couple of things that he said. He said people have so much power and so much strength. And I think it's so easy for us to not live in that power and strength and live in that kind of timid and weak and, just unsure place, that it's like, I want to be living in that place of power and strength, because I feel like when we do, we're not afraid to do those invites. And then he also said, I'm not going to limit my message to the world worrying about what people think. And I think, each one of us has such a powerful message.
Yeah. Sorry.
Were they both in the window there?
Yes.
I could see one walking through, and then I saw like another. Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, but I think that's real honest. I think, but again, it's the thing that personal development and just continue to go to work at it will help us, overcome. And I feel like there are certain things like that are a continual thing. It's not okay, now I'm not afraid of rejection anymore.
I think even the people that are in sales and do those things and are confident still fear rejection.
Yeah.
They do.
I remember working with a person at the bank who was one of the top bankers as far as sales. And this particular individual, they would just blow it out of the water every single month. And on the first of the next month, they would just be stressed out and nervous, but they did the work, but it's just one of those things that shows you that even the top people still struggle.
Yep.
So, yeah. So we have a little bit of time left. Is there anything else invite related that you want to chat about?
No, I just need to be, the disciplined part for me is key with school and homework and work and this. And I'm also volunteering for Tax Help Colorado right now. So yeah, definitely disciplining myself and scheduling that hour every day somewhere, even if it's a half an hour here and a half an hour here, to do that, because the tax help is eating up a lot of my time.
Right.
But it's something that is important to me to do. So
that's great. That's great. And are you finding you're getting that power hour in most days?
Most days I'm probably not using it to my full advantage. Because I'm sitting there, if I get in touch with somebody and they start typing, I start just chatting with them instead of like chatting with them and starting an invite somewhere else, so right. I need to find that balance.
Yeah, it takes a while. And what I have started to do is I basically put the blinders on and I like head down and get all of my invites done. And as soon as those are done, then I go back and start, with anybody that responded. Because I feel like, partially because I can drive myself crazy when I'm trying to carry on multiple conversations at once. I lose track of who I said what to.
Yes.
So a lot of times I like to just put the blinders on, get those invites done, and then move on. So I think the other thing I'm going to have everybody do, and I won't put you on the spot right now, but be thinking, because I'm going to have everybody comment on just which one of those options or which one of those things they think is holding them back. And then for the next week, what your goal is for your number of invites. And what I'm going to do is everybody that hits their goal for the week is going to get entered into a drawing for an Amazon gift card.
Okay.
So, you know, I would think if you're thinking, you know, Success Club and things like that, you know, probably 3 invites a day is a good place to start.
That's what I did. That's what I've kind of been doing, is sticking to 3 invites, 3 conversation starts, and trying to add at least 1 or 2 new people to my network.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's manageable for me right now.
Are you finding good places to add people?
You know what? It just dawned on me that I should go to the college's page and see who's on there and start friending people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, you know, they've mentioned in the training that I'm doing, but, you know, interest groups, if there's something that you're interested in, finding those types of things. And like I just found, we're members of the Disney Vacation Club. And so there's all sorts of people out there that are talking about their vacations that I at least have something that I can converse with them about. So I think finding those things that you're interested in, that gives you another place to go, you know, and meet people. Well, good. Well, I think I definitely want to try to keep these Zooms to a reasonable time length so that we can do them consistently. But I appreciate you being on, Crystal, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up, and then I'll turn record off, and if there's anything else, we can finish up, okay?
Okay.
So I did just want to wrap up the call, just reminding everyone not to limit your message to the world based on fear. So thanks for joining us, and have a great day.